The world had turned cold. Not the kind of cold you could feel in your bones, but the kind that lives behind people's eyes. A world cracked by war, ruled by suspicion, and stripped of compassion. In this broken place, two souls stood out like embers in the snow. Cael, a former legionnaire turned wandering philosopher, and Lyra, a medic who still believed people were worth saving. They had met in the rubble of a burned out city. She was tending to the wounded with hands that trembled but never stopped. He, silent and still as a statue, watched her work until a soldier aimed a gun at her back. Cael intervened, not out of impulse, but because something ancient stirred within him, a duty. Since then, they traveled together. Cael, the stoic wall. Lyra, the heart he never admitted he needed. People are cruel, she once said. They're scared, Cael replied. Fear breeds cruelty, but fear can be weathered. You say that like it's easy. It's not, that's why it matters. Months later, they reached the city of Arx, the last functioning bastion of civilization. A fortress ruled by a technocratic council and guarded by drones and walls. Not of steel, but of mistrust. Entrance was forbidden to all refugees. But Lyra had something the council wanted, a cure she had developed in secret for a viral plague decimating border towns. They granted her access. Cael, however, was denied. He waited outside the gates while Lyra promised to negotiate his entry. Days passed. Then came the message. You're a liability, it read. They said your presence would cause unrest. I'm sorry, Cael. I can't come back. He read it 100 times. Her words, or theirs, betrayal or sacrifice. His mind swirled with pain, but his training held him steady. Anger tempted him, but anger, he knew, was the luxury of the undisciplined. He clenched the scroll and whispered to himself, what is outside my control is not mine to grieve. Only my response is mine. But then came the second message. A boy coughing, collapsing at the gate. A note in his pocket. They're not curing anyone. They're weaponizing the plague. They'll use it to cleanse the outer sectors. Please help them, Cael. I was wrong. I was naive. They lied to me. Signed, Lyra. Suddenly everything shifted. Her silence wasn't betrayal. It was captivity. Cael knew what he had to do. He infiltrated Arx with the discipline of a soldier and the patience of a sage. As the city's systems began preparations to release the pathogen, he made his way to the command tower. There he found her, bruised, shackled, but alive. You came back, she gasped. I never left, he said. They fought their way to the core system, but the release sequence had already begun. Only a manual override could stop it. The console required a biometric signature, and once activated would unleash a failsafe that would destroy the chamber. Cael, don't, she begged. You can't be serious. I am. I've always been, he said, placing his hand on the panel. I waited my whole life for a moment that needed everything I've learnt. This is that moment. You'll die, he smiled faintly. Death is not to be feared. Only dishonor. And to abandon you, knowing I could save you, would be the true failure. Lyra cried, clinging to him. You taught me how to be strong, she whispered. And you taught me how to feel again, he said. Now live, not for me, for the world I couldn't fix. With a final breath, Cael pressed his palm to the pad. Light surged, steel roared, the system shut down, the plague was sealed away. Cael's body never left the chamber, but when Lyra emerged, bloodied and broken, she carried his journal. In it, a passage he'd written long ago. Endurance is not the absence of pain, but the presence of principle. Let others act in hatred. I will act in clarity. Let others betray, I will remain loyal. Let others crumble, I will stand. This is what it means to be free. In a world that had lost its soul, a man who had every reason to hate chose instead to endure. not because it was easy, but because it was right. That is the power of tolerance. That is the strength of Stoicism.